It was the worst storm to ever hit the region. When Hurricane Sandy slammed into the New York area in 2012, it took hundreds of lives, destroyed thousands of homes and businesses, and left tens of billions of dollars in damages in its wake. And if that weren't enough, scientists say that Sandy was just the beginning. A study published by the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences found that across the globe, sea levels are rising faster than they have in nearly 3,000 years. And according to a report released by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development in 2008, the New York region is one of the 10 areas most vulnerable to rising sea levels, with 2.9 million people and $2.1 trillion in assets potentially at risk by the year 2070. So how are we preparing for what may be coming, and is it enough? Joining us now to answer these questions is Dr. Radley Horton, Associate Research Scientist at Columbia University's Center for Climate Systems Research. Professor, welcome.
Thanks. It's good to be here again.
Now, Dr. Horton, can you give us a brief summary of what the new report by the National Academy of Sciences found and what those findings mean for our region?
Absolutely. So what this study found is that sea levels are rising faster than they have in a couple thousand years or more. Now, the implication here is that these seas are rising because temperatures are going up in the atmosphere and in the ocean. And the reason temperatures are going up is because we've increased the amount of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere.
It's man-made.
It's man-made. So what we're seeing is land-based ice sheets in Greenland and Antarctica melting much faster than they have in the past. We're also seeing the oceans, as they warm, expanding. That's causing what had been a little bit of sea level rise to be much faster, and the rate is accelerating. Now, what's troubling here is that because that sea level rise rate is actually accelerating, as we look out towards the late parts of the 21st century, we could see an additional 2.5 feet of sea level rise potentially in the New York region by the middle of the century. Just 2.5 feet of sea level rise, which may not sound like much, even if we get the same storms we had in the past. So we don't need stronger or more frequent Sandys. The storms of the past with a baseline sea level 2.5 feet higher will mean the level of flooding that in the past has happened once every 100 years is happening in the typical lifetime of a mortgage less than every 30 years.
You know, but this problem sounds so big. Is it even possible for a city or a region to tackle it on its own? I mean, does it not need a global solution?
It does need a global solution, but there's a lot of things simultaneously that we in New York can do to better protect ourselves and to lead the rest of the world in a lot of ways.
So what are some of those things that we can do?
Okay, so the first thing is reducing our greenhouse gas emissions. Now, these gases do last in the atmosphere for hundreds of years, so the reductions that we do in greenhouse gas emissions is not going to have a big impact on sea level, but we can lead other cities, other countries. But there are steps we can take within the city to better prepare for the sea level rise that we know is coming. Because even if we stopped emitting societally tomorrow, we'd still see some sea level rise sort of baked into the system. So to better prepare for that higher sea level, we're seeing steps underway in the region. These are things like coastal barriers being built to keep the water out. We are beginning to do that, absolutely, at small scales. We're also seeing some policy changes in the region. Policies being put into place to encourage higher levels of building, moving away from the coast. We're seeing designs in architecture too. Buildings being designed to accommodate occasional flooding, putting parking garages on the bottom floor instead of critical electrical equipment, to give one example.
That second study that I referenced in the introduction, the 2008 OECD report, was pretty scary, that in 2070 we'd see Armageddon. But of course, that happened 4 years before Sandy. Did Sandy change the trajectory? Did it make us make some of those changes that sets those problematic times further away?
Right. So Sandy in itself doesn't indicate that I'd say the science has necessarily changed that much. There's always been a risk of a storm of the magnitude of Sandy, but I think it helped people and it helped us societally to understand that risk, that baseline risk is there, and that with sea level rise, the risk is going to become greater. It also helped bring some economic resources into the region. It helped enable people to do, I think, some long-term planning, because it didn't seem remote anymore, this idea that all of our infrastructure and people on the coast are vulnerable.
And what are the most vulnerable areas within our region?
What are the most vulnerable areas? Yeah. So we have low-lying populations in Brooklyn and Queens, for example. We have obviously a lot of valuable assets and people in lower Manhattan, but we really see it throughout the entire East Coast of the U.S.
But are there areas from which realistically we need to start retreating from?
I think as a culture, as a society in the U.S. and globally, we need to come to terms with the fact that there are areas we're going to have to retreat from. Long term, there are some
Can you
areas.
give us examples of what
people have
those are?
talked about Miami as one
Yeah.
example. So
What about in this region?
here in this region, it's possible that in Lower Manhattan we may be able to build a protective barrier. There are other areas where.
What about the far Rockaways, Long Beach? What about parts of New Jersey?
Yeah. So I think there are resiliency steps that we can take, at least for a while. We're seeing some really innovative designs along the lines of breakwaters that would stop waves coming in. But I think long term, if we see some of these upper end sea level rise projections, we may, over the long term, need to think about the need to evacuate some of these areas.
So in about 30 seconds we have left or less, are you confident that we will have the will to make the changes that we need to make?
I'm confident that New York City is showing the best leadership that we could look for really here. They're considering the worst case scenarios of sea level rise. Unfortunately, I'm also confident that globally as a society, there are a lot of cities we're not going to be able to protect. Even if you build a barrier, the water will seep in Miami from underneath. The challenge is huge, and there are vulnerable communities all over the world. Bangladesh, just to give one example, Delta cities, so many people, more people moving to those coastal areas. The vulnerabilities are huge, and we're going to have a dialogue about how to retreat and protect some of those people.
Well, Dr. Horton, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.